With the 14th pick in the 2023 NFL Draft, the New England Patriots must select Zay Flowers, wide receiver, Boston College. If the New England Patriots want to maximize 2023 and want to take a giant leap on offense this year and beyond this year, the pick at number 14, without hesitation, should be the do-it-all weapon at wide receiver out of Boston College in your backyard. His name is Zay Flowers. Zay Flowers is arguably the most talented, best receiver in this draft class. I could see some people going maybe with JSN, Jackson Smith and Jigba, but personally, I believe in terms of all-around wide receivers, including versatility, including explosiveness, including the ability to play in the slot, the ability to play outside, the ability to create at every level, to run routes at every level, to get open, to separate, to make contested catches at every level. The best, most complete receiver in this class is Zay Flowers out of Boston College. Zay Flowers is an electric player, and the New England Patriots have had a close look at Zay Flowers. Their coaches, in fact, ran some practices where Zay Flowers was running routes inside that Bill O'Brien Patriots system this offseason. They've had a very close look at him. They've met with him. Zay Flowers could very well be the pick, but in this video, I really want to just rant and rave about Zay Flowers and why I believe he is the perfect Patriot and the perfect pick at number 14. And you let me know in the comment section below what you think of Zay Flowers to New England. Personally, I love the fit because when you talk about New England, and this is the way I would approach the first round of drafts if I was a general manager, I would approach it through the lens of which position and which player could I add to this team in the first round where I would get that much better. I would improve overnight drastically. He would not only fill a hole for my depth chart, but he would drastically improve what I already have. And he would impact the rest of my team in a positive manner. I think that's something that gets lost with the draft. Some people want to pick quarterbacks that won't be ready for 3 years. That's not me, okay? In the first round, especially high in the draft, in the top 15, where the Patriots land at number 14, they should be looking for a day one starter, an impact player, and probably in a couple years, he should be one of your best players. He should be, especially a team like New England, who never has a pick this high. They have never had this pick, I believe, since 2008. And that was because of the Seahawks, who traded for Deion Branch, and we landed that pick for Gerard Mayo. That's basically how we got that selection. Mac Jones wasn't even selected this high in the draft. So New England has not had a pick this high in quite some time. That means we can land a premier talent, and that means we could get maybe the best receiver in this draft, period. We can have our choice potentially if no other team picks a receiver ahead of us. I'm not saying that Zay Flowers is guaranteed to be there at number 14. I'm not sure a team like Houston could maybe pick him. But, you know, there's other receivers that teams might like a little bit more. Like JSN is the other guy that I feel like is going toe-to-toe with Zay Flowers. And I could see a team like Houston maybe going with him. But why Zay Flowers? Why him over everybody else? Why Zay Flowers for New England? Why, to me, is it the perfect fit? To me, it's the perfect fit because he is that one guy that can attack every level of a defense. So when you're talking about the 3 levels of a defense, you're talking about short, intermediate, and deep. And Zay Flowers all over the tape. And if you like, just check out his highlights, okay? He gets open. He separates. He runs routes to a degree at every level. And it's rare that you see a college receiver not only run a route tree as diverse as Zay Flowers, but he's also good at every level of the field. Typically, you have a receiver that's more of a yards after catch guy that's really good with screens, and he's good at jet sweeps, and you get the ball in his hands and he does damage. Sometimes guys are just good in the slot, and they're good over the middle of the field and good in the short and intermediate range. Sometimes guys are deep threats and they're burners and they're vertical threats. Sometimes guys are intermediate perimeter threats, but not a lot of guys are Zay Flowers, where I feel like Zay Flowers is being extremely underestimated due to the college he went to. But this is an impact player for an NFL team that's going to be able to play the slot. He's going to be able to play the X, right? The perimeter number 1 receiver. He could play the Z, the number 2 typically for a team, where Julian Edelman a lot of the time, just to give an example, played the Z and he played the slot. Okay, so a lot of the time he's the guy that is just not so attached to the formation, but they find ways to motion him and get him matchups and find ways to get him open. And then occasionally in 3 receiver sets, he lines up in the slot in the middle of the formation, okay? To simplify that for you. Zay Flowers can align at all 3 of those spots. Not only can he do that, he can also take jet sweeps for big gains. He can take screens for big gains. He can run routes, double moves, and separate vertically down the field. And for a guy that's only 5'9", a lot of people are comparing him to somebody like Antonio Brown, because Antonio Brown, what made him truly special was not only the cuts and the quickness and the ability to separate at the top of the route, where he was magnificent in the short and intermediate range. That guy could have been the best outside perimeter receiver or the best slot receiver if he just did that alone. But Antonio Brown also had special vertical ability for somebody that's only 5'10", and you wouldn't expect to have great contested catch ability, but Antonio Brown was spectacular in that regard due to his hands, his positioning, and his body control to make catches over his shoulder and things of that nature. Zay Flowers has very similar traits. He's a guy that can jump pretty high for a smaller human being. He does have spectacular hands and body control and the ability to contort and catch the football all over the place. He is good at jumping and leaping and jumping over 2 people and catching the ball despite his size. He's athletic, he's gifted, he's fast, he's quick, he's got great explosiveness. That's another area where I think New England could use him. So not only can he attack all 3 levels, but he's explosive when he gets the ball. New England, when you look at their depth chart and you look at their receiver options and you look at what they have, okay, so they got Juju Smith-Schuster, who's not super explosive, right? He's good after the catch because he's physical and he can get to you, he can stiff arm you down to the ground, and he's very savvy in the open field. He's tough to take down in the open field because he's deceptively big as a receiver, and he'll play primarily in the slot. But to me, Juju is not a number 1 receiver, right? If he's your number 1 receiver, your offense probably isn't upper echelon, okay? But Juju Smith-Schuster is a very good player, and maybe by some underrated. Okay, then you look at the rest of the receiving corps. If you have Kendrick Bourne, that's kind of a hybrid player where he can work primarily the short and underneath, outside or inside. He's also good with the ball in his hands and good after the catch. Devontae Parker is primarily an intermediate and deep threat, but not through speed, but through contested catch ability. Okay, so that's your receiving corps. Then you have tight ends Hunter Henry, who's a good route runner, is good in contested situations, kind of a well-rounded mesh of a tight end, right? He's a good blend of everything. He can block a little bit. He's a good receiver. He's a great red zone threat. Mike Gesicki is more of a big receiver, but he plays tight end, okay? And he's going to play in the slot a lot. He's going to maybe be split out wide occasionally. He's going to play inline, but always to play receiver. And he's great in contested situations. He's a lot like Devontae Parker in that regard, and he's got such a big frame. I think he's also really, really underrated as a top of the route runner. And I think that's an area where people underestimate his ability, but he's not a yards after catch player. So in describing all of these players, we have different skill sets like a basketball team, right? But the problem with New England right now, and if you really want to elevate Mac Jones and get the most of the quarterback position and get the most out of Bill O'Brien's offense here in New England, what you need is a guy that can do a little bit of everything. And I'm not saying that's been essential for the Patriots' success in the past, but how nice would it be to have a number 1 target? Even if that guy is not the prototype of a Randy Moss, he's not the prototype of a Terrell Owens, a Megatron. He isn't the guy you think of as a 6'3" monster, right? But Zay Flowers is a perfect prototype for Patriot football because he is that little kind of jitterbug player where he can laterally burn you and run routes and separate from the slot, but he can also go vertical, which is almost like Julian Edelman plus, and that's kind of like what Antonio Brown was, right? And that's why people compare him to Antonio Brown. I see a little bit of Steve Smith as well in his game. He's got an attitude, he's got a feistiness to him, he's physical when he needs to be. He's not super big, but he's got an edge to his game that I appreciate Zay Flowers. So I view Zay Flowers as maybe a player that's kind of uncomparable to any past Patriot. You can see maybe a little bit of Deion Branch, where Branch kind of was good in every area. Deep, intermediate, short. Underrated probably by a lot of Patriots fans overall, but a very good player. I think Zay Flowers is a mix of those guys, and he's not like some of the players we've failed to kind of incorporate into our offense. We failed with N'Keal Harry. I think most of it had to do with N'Keal Harry, but I think a part of it at least had to do with the fact that he was a big receiver who doesn't fit our offense, because the Patriots offense is very precise, right? And you have to be able to run routes at a precise rate, and Zay Flowers can do that, okay? And he can also add an explosive speed element that we don't have on our team. So he's going to be able to cover all areas of the field and be able to be that weapon that teams have to identify and cover, and potentially down the road double team to open everybody else up. That's why I love him at number 14. I didn't even mention earlier Tyquan Thornton, and some of you probably already commented this, but Tyquan Thornton is a speed threat. But I don't think he's ideally a guy that's going over the middle of the field and catching the football a ton. I think he's a 3-4 a game catch type of guy, hopefully, where he can catch some big plays down the field and he can really stress defenses vertically, and maybe you throw him a couple screens because of his speed. But I'm not sure if Tyquan will ever be anything. Based on last year, he showed some flashes, but nothing much. I'm intrigued to see what Bill O'Brien can use him as, maybe like a Will Fuller-esque player for his offense. But we need the guy. We need a guy, okay? We have a bunch of guys, but we don't have the guy. And that's what I think Zay Flowers can be for New England at number 14. And within that, at wide receiver, if you make that offense better through that number one receiver and playmaker and explosive element that we've been missing, it makes your run game better because defenses are more concerned about the vertical element of your offense. It makes every other player around him better. And then it makes your defense better because your offense is more explosive and you're more capable of coming back in games and creating big explosive chunk plays. So by acquiring a number one receiver, it probably has the greatest impact that any other position that we could potentially grab at number 14 has. The other position that I think could have a massive impact, a lot of people are talking about tackle. Personally, I don't think that position is going to be a massive upgrade over what the Patriots already have, at least for the first year. Okay, because I think Riley Reiff and Kelvin Anderson are very capable with good coaching to be solid tackles. I'm not saying they're going to be great, but I think they'll be just as good as last year, if not better, and the coaching on the offensive line will be a lot better. Okay, so defensively, I think corner, number one corner, would be another huge difference-making position. Now, I'm probably going to be making a video about Devin Witherspoon, who I think is phenomenal. I don't know if he'll make it there at number 14, but that would be maybe my other preference, would be a number one corner. But regardless, if I were to pick New England and looking at the realistic options in the draft, if I were the general manager, if I were Bill Belichick, I would be picking Zay Flowers. He fits the offense the best. He fits a need the best, and he makes our team the best in 2023. And he potentially gets the most out of a Mac Jones and the rest of our offense, which is where we need improvement. So, let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. It's Mitch. Thanks for watching this video. Gronk spike the like button, and we'll see you in the next one.